Have you ever heard of Agenda 21? What about the Great Reset? I know I talked about this in a previous episode. Have you heard about the Green New Deal? Do you know much about the World Economic Forum? What about biocapitalism, impact economy, social impact bonds? There's a lot of information to get through here. Basically what we're talking about is, what is COVID-19 ushering in for humanity? What are we seeing as the world is being thrust into an economic upheaval? Was this by design, or is this all just very, very convenient timing for the tech industry? We're going to get into that and more in this episode. Please smash that like button. Look at the show notes below. There are ways to get involved, and I'm really going to start asking you people to get a little bit more involved. If you like the information that I'm bringing to you, and you like the way that I try to at least stay upbeat, I'm not always talking about what's wrong. I try to bring some solutions. However, I try to bring a sobering look at reality for us. So please donate. There's PayPal, there's Vimeo, there's other ways you can get involved, but I will say this. If you guys donate over $100, I will personally send you 3 signed copies of my DVDs. That is Esoteric Agenda, Chimetica, and Ungrip. I'll sign it and put a personalized note in there for you. If you donate more than $1,000, you will get a 1-hour Zoom call with me where we will discuss solutions and how you can get involved with the community that is basically gathering around, not just myself, we are all gathering together in order to use technology in a new decentralized way, because I do not believe we need to go back to the Stone Age. I think we need to move forward. So please hit the like button, subscribe, please subscribe, share this video with all your friends, because this is a very, very important topic and it's more timely than ever. I want you guys to take a couple deep breaths as we get ready for a deep dive into what's going to be happening this coming decade right here on Waking Infinity News. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, we are at December 7th. There's a lot of things to talk about today. I want to dive straight in because this is going to take a lot of time. I'm not going to do this as fluidly as I've done it before, which was a little bit more rehearsed and prepared for you, just so I could stay very effective and efficient with my words. It takes a lot of time to be able to do all this research on my own. So I'm also putting the call to action out there for you guys. Please contact me if you want to be able to work as a part of this team, because the team right now is numero uno. It's just me. And I need people to help me with not just the technical aspect, YouTube optimization, putting these up on all the podcast platforms, but also things like fact-checking for me, verifying, basically doing some of this research with me so we can, as a team, bolster each other up and give better information and better solutions. Now, it's December 7th. There's a lot of history around this date. Around this time, I just want to throw out to you, Pearl Harbor happened. I think tomorrow is the anniversary of Jim Morrison dying or being born. See, if I had a fact checker, you guys would be able to fact check that for me. The reason I'm saying this is tomorrow is also the safe harbor deadline. Okay, we are a little bit more than 1 month after the 2020 elections. Joe Biden, all the mainstream media is calling for Joe Biden as the new president of the United States. A lot of people who are, let's just say, ill-informed, they think that he is the very next president, that it is certified. He's not certified. States have not certified yet. Some have. Some are in dispute. And Justice Alito said, if by tomorrow, it's already gone to the Supreme Court, if by tomorrow there are disputes in Pennsylvania and Georgia, then it does not reach the safe harbor deadline, and potentially those electoral votes for Joe Biden, because that's who they went for, would be thrown out, and this would give Donald Trump an opportunity. It wouldn't ensure anything, but it would give Donald Trump an opportunity and a new avenue towards the presidency for the next 4 years. It's a very interesting time. The reason why I bring this up is because partisan politics is really getting in the way of a lot of people paying attention to what the underlying agenda here is. The underlying agenda is coming directly from the World Economic Forum. If you guys do not know about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, I'm not saying dislike the person or like the person, but if you're not paying attention, then you are really not informed. If you're paying attention only to Joe Biden and Donald Trump and voter fraud, all these things, I guarantee you, they pale in comparison to the fact that we have a brand new world coming in right under our noses. I mean it. So, tomorrow is the safe harbor deadline. We may find out tomorrow that these electoral votes in PA and Georgia are going to be thrown out for Joe Biden. If that happens, all I'm saying is you may have a lot of civil unrest. I don't want to go too deeply into that because I think that all of that is a distraction. But it is something that's coming up tomorrow. Now, I'm going to be looking down because I have all my notes to keep me on track. I don't want to veer too far off track here. But what we're talking about today is, in the midst of this whole voter election fraud, we need to ask ourselves, if this were a theater, let's just suppose that this whole thing was a theater. Why? Would it just be for entertainment? Or would it be to get us emotionally involved in something, to get us to demand something, and then all of a sudden, the powers that be, the World Economic Forum, the global elite, the technocratic elite, the 1%, the ones who join together at Davos every January in Switzerland to talk about the future of the world, primarily men, primarily white men. What you would probably realize is that underneath all of it, they have already put the Great Reset Initiative in front of us. They're already talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. They're already talking about Globalization 4.0. They're talking about biocapitalism. They're talking about impact economy and social impact bonds. People or groups like Goldman Sachs have actually invested into social impact bonds, which are ways, it looks quite interesting on the face of it, but it's basically, at the top level of it, it's a complete reform from shareholder economy to stakeholder economy. I'll get into all these terms, but I just want to throw these terms at you now so you realize you're going to have a brand new language to research after all of this. I had to go super deep, and I want to give a lot of props to Alison McDowell for doing so much of this research that I leaned on for this. She runs a blog post called Wrench in the Gears. Please go to wrenchinthegears.com and check out the massive amount of blogs that she's been writing about exactly this. I've talked about the Internet of Things, the future of AI, the Internet of Bodies, how all of this technology sharing and propagating data on our behalf, but really not on our behalf, it's doing it without our consent, is actually even entering into the body. And we humans, not all humans, right? And we're not talking about that top 1%. The rest of us are being pushed into a impoverished state, and all aspects of global sustainable development, Agenda 21, the World Economic Forum's Great Reset Initiative, and the Fourth Industrial Revolution are all predicated around poverty management. So please check out Alison McDowell. I'm going to try and get her on a podcast, so I'll start bringing to you conversations with the people that I'm relying heavily on for this research. So without further ado, let's dive into where we are going in the next 10 years. People, it might sound kind of bleak to you, but there's so much hope. There's so much that we can do. You're allowed to hear my voice. We're not in a prison planet yet, right? You're allowed to hear my voice. I'm allowed to get these messages out to you. It's becoming a lot more locked down. You see the numbers that I'm putting up. They're not much. A couple thousand views here and there, only 10,000 subscribers, when before, just on social media alone, I had about 50,000 people following several of my pages. Each one of them, over the years, cut, deleted, canceled, thrown out, and now my ability to get out to the masses has been largely hindered. I've actually had to quiet down certain things that I wanted to talk to you guys about and start working on a different group of networks talking about different things like plant medicines and awakening, just so I could build back a little bit of a subscriber and a follower base so I could get these messages out to you. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot be spectators any longer. So, like I said, without further ado, let's dive in. We got this idea of biocapitalism and stakeholder capitalism. So I want to read you what biocapitalism is. Biocapitalism refers to processes of the primary valorization of materials derived from human bodies and non-human living beings to the meaning of these processes for capitalist accumulation strategies and to related transformations of models of labor, exploitation, and subjectivization. Now, a lot of this is actually playing around Marx's theories, Marx's ideas. It goes on to say, what needs to be scrutinized are the social practices and relations through which body materials come to function as commodities or proto-commodities. Proto-commodities would be really sperm cells and egg cells and those kinds of tissues. They are put into a different classification. If you guys go back and watch my third film, Ungrip, with Rob and the Paget family, you'll realize that a lot of what we are as humans, because we have a birth certificate, and those birth certificates and the numbers on the back are HR numbers, human resource numbers. We are human resources. For what? That's what we're getting into right now. And really, now it's just going to become far more obvious what these human resources are used for. Let's go deeper. Mining humans as commodity. Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, says the next revolution will come from biology. Scientists are now introducing the same thinking and analysis that produced the data computer revolution into the world of living materials. As we begin to say, we're going to take the analog world of biology, how genes work, how diseases work, and put them in a digital framework, calculate for a while, do some machine learning on how things happen, and then we'll be able to not only help you become a better human being, but predict what's going to happen to you physically in terms of your health and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have HBO, if you haven't watched WestWorld, the newer version of WestWorld, go watch the latest season, at least just the latest season, and you will realize this is almost to a T what they're talking about, what they're getting at, the concept of WestWorld. There is a ruling technocratic elite at the top, and they're gamifying people's lives and the outcomes of their lives. You'll see Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad as one of the main characters who's helping this revolution forward. Please watch Westworld. You'll have a much better understanding of what it is that I'm talking about here. But this is real world. This is Eric Schmidt, worth $17.4 billion, former CEO of Google. All right? He's talking about humans becoming mining commodities and health becoming tokenized. Your dietary decisions, your movement habits, and even breathing patterns may be soon monitored to incentivize the kinds of social and individual behavior they deem suitable for the new world globalization 4.0. This is what we're moving into, globalization 4.0. And you can go to, there's many sites that will show you this. I think if you go to Niantic, Niantic, which is a group that's really going to be revolutionizing part of our economy by bringing AR and VR into the fore. They're funded by In-Q-Tel, which used to be the venture capital arm of the CIA, now also in bed with the FBI, the NSA, and also the Department of Homeland Security. So let's go deeper. Impact economy and social impact bonds. What is this? Well, social impact bonds, let's stay there. They are a contract with the public sector or governing authority whereby it pays for better social outcomes in certain areas and passes on the part of the savings achieved to investors. So, okay, the government pays for it. Private sector comes in and non-governmental organizations come in to build this infrastructure for the impoverished class. Sounds great, right? Because there's so many impoverished. However, all of that, really the wealth, not only the wealth, but also the resources, not only the resources and the wealth, but also everything that's mined out of it does not get filtered back down to the bottom class, to the impoverished class. The impoverished class are becoming more and more like avatars in a video game. They are allowed to use the functionality of the game, but they do not touch the coding of it. They do not really get the benefit. They don't get the tokens that the players get. And the players are, if you know what the market is, you're betting on the market, and then you were able to bet against the market. Well, now we're getting into the point where we're betting on individual lives and their outcomes, how successful people will be. There's equations to take care of this. And I'll get into some of this a little bit more, but let's go deeper. Alison McDowell, as I said, from wrenchinthegears.com, relates to this as poverty management. Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, also owns Cityblock and Sidewalk Labs, which is the urban innovation group. Okay? Think this is all linked to Agenda 21 and sustainable development, and basically the urban innovation, it's basically looking at cities as how do we retrofit them as smart cities. Now you're going to start seeing in Austin and places like this, there will be affordable income housing. And it looks really sleek, and they're just boxes stacked on top of boxes. And they come retrofitted with about 60 smart devices. Again, the smart devices that we're talking about are all part of the Internet of Things, which is basically started by Procter & Gamble. In these smart, low income, affordable income housing units, you will find that there's retinal scanners. This is what Alison McDowell is talking about. Retinal scanners to get inside your very own home. Well, who controls whether you can get inside your very own home or not? Who controls whether you are monitored and tracked inside and outside your house? We'll get into geofencing and where that comes into play with all of this. Basically, what we're talking about is how the world itself is turning into something like a prison. Stay tuned for more on that. Spatial computing and gamifying reality. Like I was telling you, there's that group Niantic, funded by In-Q-Tel, and they seek to gamify economy of health, hobbies, and businesses in a purely virtual world like Pokemon Go. If you know about Pokemon Go, it's augmented reality. A lot of the times it was using your phone, but eventually we'll have heads-up glasses. Eventually you're going to have like Mojo Vision, implantable or wearable contact lenses that give you the same effect as wearing AR. Augmented reality goggles. What we're talking about here is, okay, have you seen Minority Report when Tom Cruise is walking through that mall, and as he's walking through, his identity is scanned, and then you'll see this hologram or on the wall, this LED screen, and the woman's like, hello, Tom, or whatever his name was in the movie. How was that blah, blah, blah that you just bought? How did you like the yada, yada? And it has all this information on this citizen walking through the mall. Simply by geolocation, knowing exactly who it is as they're walking through the mall and knowing where they're looking as well. Where I want to go with this is we're talking about a brand new type of economy where your behavior, what you do, how you behave, how you eat, how much you move, how good of a citizen you are. Sounds like a lot of movies, right? How good of a citizen you are will be rewarded, tokenized. You get these tokens and you get to use these tokens like money or for rent. I'm being serious. This is exactly what this is turning into. So Niantic is it's this company that's saying that AR and VR, it's a global platform. You will even be able to have your businesses, and they have applications right now, stunted by COVID-19, but I'm pretty sure they had an idea that was coming and they planned around that. What I'm saying is you can put your business on this where people can virtually visit you. So you can go to a site, a physical location with these glasses, with these goggles, or virtually from home, and you can visit the store like you're inside the store when you're not really inside a brick and mortar store. What is the future of this? I can only speculate. Now, this is just speculation. I want to be very, very clear about that. But Imagine, where does Amazon exist? Well, there's many businesses, right? Like Whole Foods now owned by Amazon, Washington Post now owned by Jeff Bezos. We could talk about brick and mortar places that have all the things that Amazon will send you. However, Amazon itself is in the virtual world. So will your businesses be in the near future. They're incentivizing entrepreneurs and new business leaders and business managers to bring their business into the AR and VR world. Very interesting. And again, I hope you guys don't think that I'm actually dissing any of this. A lot of this sounds fantastic if it weren't for the fact that it was completely centralized and controlled. This is not something that's going to be redistributed and everybody in the world is now going to share in the wealth that has been proliferated by this technology. That is not the plan.
The third and final priority of the Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the fourth industrial revolution to support the public good. Again, using the narrative of the public good to gain control of the private sector and our wealth and your wealth, and pretty much what it is. And they're using this narrative of, hey, all your debts are going to be paid off, right? Whether it's student loans, whether it's credit card debt, whatever it is, right? We're going to take care of that debt for you. Well, guess what, guys? If you control the debt, right? If you own the debt of somebody else, guess what happens? You own that person. You control that person, right? It's everywhere, whether it be the Bible, whether it be, common economic laws. If you control the debt of something, you control that person. You control that investment. And that's something that we cannot forget. We always have to have that in the back of our minds.
Let's go deeper. Soon, full haptic devices, which are these devices that give physical stimulation to the body for enhanced learning environments, may be used for education reform. The plan may be to outmode brick and mortar schools as well. So outmoding brick and mortar schools, all kids are learning from home. Distancing.
Any object that collides with the avatar will set off the haptics. So chairs, walls, the floor, everything. You can interact with this whole virtual world and lay on the floor and, feel the floor. I know what some people out there are thinking. What else can this be used for in VR chat? Well, I guess technically, you can move around the assets in Unity to wherever you want on your avatar and put the haptics on that corresponding part of your body. Have I tested it? No. Will I? Probably not.
All right, well, if this is what social distancing means in the future, that all of our pleasure and all of our interaction happens at a distance, then I guess you guys are starting to see my point a little bit more. But it's not just about social distancing because of the COVID pandemic. Mind you, Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest investment firms out there, Goldman Sachs, has lockdown protocols. They're not COVID lockdown plans and protocols. They are purely lockdown social distancing protocols. These are ways to distance humans from one another. I will eventually get into the fact that we have a heart field. And when you distance too far from people, you're not actually standing within their heart field. Community comes when you're actually in the physical, biological presence of another human being. Community, where you can hold each other's hands, breathe each other's air. Go and look at the Hawaiians and the reason why they put their foreheads up to one another and they, the breath, right? How quickly will humanity adopt this technology? We're racing into a brand new age of technology. How quickly are we going to adopt it? Many people say nobody is going to take injectable contact lenses, or not even the contact lenses, injectable implants, cochlear implants when your hearing is perfectly fine. Who's really going to bore a hole in their skull and put Neuralinks in there so it can, this radiating technology can interface with your brain, potentially stimulating your brain, suppressing thoughts and memories, or introducing new thoughts and new memories into your mind? Who's going to do that? Now, I just want to take you through the adoption of technology in the past 100 years. All of this information right here is sourced from Our World in Data. It starts off by saying it took more than 100 years for the flush toilet to be found in half of U.S. homes. 70 years passed before 50% of American households had a car, and an additional 60 years passed before we got the current place, which is 95% of American households now having a car. The washing machine was available for 40 years before it made it into 50% of households. The computer wormed its way into 90% of homes, businesses, and hearts in less than 30 years. You notice how that timeline is shrinking? We said 100 years, 70 years, 40 years, now 30 years for the computer. The internet gained widespread adoption within 20 years. Smartphones and social media became indispensable daily facets of American life within 5 years of their launch, and virtual assistants like Alexa and Google Home crossed the threshold into more than 50% of American homes in less than 5 years. Is it really a stretch to think that in this coming decade, between 2020 and 2030, that we aren't going to have widespread AR and VR running our economy, that we're not going to have some kind of Pokemon Go type of reality where reality itself is supplanted and replaced or augmented with this digital world, the spatial internet, the internet that's all around you. You're in the smart device. You can't get rid of your phone. It's everywhere. The device is everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you bought it or not. It doesn't matter whether you consent to being around it or not. It doesn't matter whether you like the fact that your data is being harvested or not. Is it a stretch after hearing that we have been adopting technology at a faster and faster rate that within the next 10 years we won't have autonomous vehicles, drones delivering our mail, a brand new economic system where humans are being mined? Humans and our data, our biological data and our behavioral data is being mined as a commodity from the wealthy elite. Is it really that much of a stretch? I don't think so. So let's go deeper. How does this apply to COVID-19? Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum uses COVID-19 economic impact, meaning the impact that COVID-19 had upon the global economy, to create social benefits systems. Social benefits systems. This is why businesses must fail. This is why no matter how ridiculous the stay-at-home orders may look to people, they are still enforced. Even though people like Nancy Pelosi and California Governor Newsom and others are enforcing stay-at-home quarantine orders while still dining out several times after being caught, getting haircuts and vacationing themselves, they're still saying, you must stay home. So do as I say, not as I do type of politics. This is interesting, and I believe that it's actually more flagrant and out in the open on purpose, so we can start getting used to the fact that what we thought was a free and democratic world is not. Listen to the Tim Poole podcast called Democrats Pretend to be Republicans from Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, where Tim mentions a staggering statistic, which is, wait for it, 22% of all U.S. money was created in the past 1 year. How has inflation not destroyed the economy? How are we still seeing the market doing as well as it seems to be? Well, the truth is, in just a decade or so, tech giants went from a very, very small percentage of the entire U.S. market and global market to being around that 26% mark. It's another quarter. So basically, they're such a big part of our entire market, and that is not a shrinking number. It is a rapidly expanding number. So this is why we're seeing social technocracy stepping in. The wealthy technology owners in a very controlled, not decentralized, but highly centralized framework are ushering in this thing that very much so looks like a solution. We're going to save the planet. We're going to save the economy. We're going to save all these things. And in turn, you simply need our technology. We'll even give you the technology for free. And therein lies the problem. Nobody can avoid it. Even if you throw your phone away, you walk through a park, you still have hundreds of people with their phones. A camera pointing this way, a camera pointing that way, motion sensors, audio that can pick up just about, with really good clarity, anything within 20 feet. Basically, our entire spatial 3D world is mapped already. The technology is in place. Now the algorithms just need to get a little bit better and faster. So what is Globalization 4.0? With digital technologies continuously disrupting business, government, academia, and society, both on a national and massively global scale. The advent of Globalization 4.0, a term coined by this year's World Economic Forum to signal the coming shift in globalized structures, may be upon us. This was in March 13, 2019, many months before COVID-19, already saying that this Globalization 4.0 is going to be ushered forth. Now, the catalyst is COVID-19. I want you to go back a couple episodes in Waking Infinity News and check out the episode, The Great Reset, The Dark Winter, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, where I'm talking about Event 201 and the striking similarities to the COVID-19 pandemic. Exactly how it said it was going to play out. And there are many other simulations, but this is the world we're moving into, a simulation world. I want to talk a little bit about 5G and 6G. You know about 5G, you've heard about it. It's going to give us much faster internet. You're going to be able to download a movie in seconds. There's so much more radiation. What are we going to do? Ladies and gentlemen, it's not about 5G anymore. It's not. It's about 6G, where digital twinning comes in. Now, the simulation world is already upon us. We just don't interact with it as the lay people. It's really just the wealthy elite and the developers that are interacting with digital twins. And what a digital twin is basically your twin. If you watch the movie The Social Dilemma on Netflix, you'll see that they're talking about you have this, in a sense, a digital voodoo doll that all these social media and tech giants are using all of this data, which is the new oil, to predict our movements, to predict our outcomes, predict what we will say, what we will do, who we want to connect with, what we want to buy, how we interact. This is the reason for the quantum economy and the quantum internet and the quantum revolution, the second quantum revolution being ushered in, because now entrepreneurs are coming up with the quantum business model in order to kind of figure out how humans interact and exchange value, because value isn't just numbers anymore. So now you're seeing this huge race. Every time you go on your phone on Google and you see all those news spots, you will always see one for how quantum computing is being ushered in at an accelerated rate. So Event 201 used a hypothetical coronavirus as its subject. It modeled millions of deaths worldwide, 65 million to be exact, along with a severe contraction of the world economy. The Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health Center for Health Security conducted Event 201. It was named after its benefactor, Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg is the brainchild of Event 201. It wasn't just Bill Gates, but it was in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. According to Alison McDowell, Michael Bloomberg is going to be running the program for policing cities through blockchain finance. Bill Gates will be the one to get everyone attached to a blockchain ID. Look into ID 2020, go to benjosephstewart.com and watch Esoteric Agenda 2. You will see that I talk a little bit about 5G, the surveillance state that's coming, and specifically the vaccines and ID 2020, and what this means for the future of a very centralized type of technocratic future if we don't amass some kind of non-compliance and use technology in a better, safer way, all right? A non-centralized, a decentralized way. Okay, Bill Gates says there's no back to normal until global vaccination. Here's the video.
This will be the greatest economic hit, but you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. For the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population. The entire population.
So here's where it really goes, and this is what Alison McDowell has been talking about this entire time. A health passport, a pass. You can't travel, you can't get back to normal, you can't reopen your business, you can't go out to the store, you can't go out into public places anymore, you can't even go out and visit nature, according to Agenda 21 and Sustainable Development. You can't do any of these things unless you get the pass, the vaccine. And that pass is a way to show that you've gotten vaccinated and you're up to your blockchain standard, right? This is not because of a cough, I'm going to infect other people. This is to get everybody on blockchain so we are a part of a commodified species. And even Marxism, going all the way back to Marxism, talking about the labor force and using the labor of human beings. We are being colonized all the way down to our biology, all the way down to the fabric of our being. How? Nanodust. Mining cryptocurrency. Using the energy like we are batteries to mine cryptocurrency. But to stay on course, if you look at passes on Indian reservations through apartheid and in Gaza, this is all the amazing work of Alison McDowell. If you look at how these passes have disenfranchised and really decimated those populations, you might understand where all of this is headed. I want to keep going deeper. Books like The Kill Chain and Surveillance Capitalism show that Silicon Valley was started by the defense industry. We already said that Niantic and In-Q-Tel are monetarily in bed with the CIA, FBI, NSA, and Homeland Security. Now, where is all this heading? You have ideas like geofencing. Geofencing is really these artificial digital boundaries that are placed anywhere, right? It's just an algorithm that places it through GPS location. So if you look at Google Maps or Google Earth, you can actually eventually see exactly how these location boundaries could be placed. So if you were to walk past a certain boundary line, you, being a commodity now, once you walk past the border, you're going to start getting pings in your device, whether it's implanted in your ear, your eye, even if it's still on your phone, you get a ping. What that means is geofencing is completely aware of where you are, and it knows everything about your social credit, your social standing. Are you a good citizen? Have you eaten correctly lately? And they incentivize and tokenize, if you will, if you've eaten an apple instead of a hamburger, if you got up and walked to the refrigerator instead of had your kid go and grab you something. These are all things that it's getting into a world where there's nothing we can do that would not be gambled on and incentivized through groups like Goldman Sachs. Brick and mortar stores, brick and mortar schools might be a thing of the past very soon. Same thing goes for prisons. Now, Bill Gates and his foundation actually has ties to for-profit prison systems. But in the future, the entire planet may be the prison system. And if there's geofencing, you can have people walking around that are hardened criminals, but they can't walk past a certain barrier. Why? Because geofencing is kind of like an ankle bracelet. But let's say you actually have enough nanodust in you that can cause for your DNA to actually go haywire or get an electric shock or some kind of immobilizing force so you can't walk through a certain boundary. Your biology shuts down because your biology is starting to become connected to the smart grid. If this happens, who's to say that you want to speak out against something? You don't agree or you don't like the way certain things are happening, so you speak out against it. Ooh, I'm sorry. Just like anyone who refuses to go along with the narrative of COVID-19 or the elections being called for Joe Biden, even though the electoral process hasn't been certified in every state. Mind you, the media does not certify presidents. They can call them, but calling it is just like I could call what I think is going to happen tomorrow or how the weather is going to be next week. That doesn't mean I've proven it. That doesn't mean I certified it. So here's where we're going with this. If you speak out against a certain narrative, and the narrative is very important, then the system and the stakeholders or the shareholders could say, listen, we don't like what you did. We're going to take 3 tokens away from you and we're going to limit your travel. You can't go outside of your own neighborhood. And it's geofenced and geolocated. And maybe you get a little electric shock that immobilizes you if you try to go, or maybe you just have authorities called on you and they come and they arrest you and take you back to your home. You're not allowed to travel. How do they get the authority to do this? We're not in Kansas anymore if we say yes to this brand new economic reset that we are going through, Globalization 4.0. Why? Please go back and check out Esoteric Agenda 1 If you check out Esoteric Agenda 1, I go into great detail. Mind you, this was back in 2008, the beginning of 2008, that this film came out, and people like Michael Shaw was talking about Agenda 21, sustainable development, where everyone's going to be packed into smart cities and all of nature is going to be allowed to come back to the fore, right? It's the Green New Deal. It's for the sake of nature. But you're not allowed to be around wildlife anymore. Why? Because bats cause coronaviruses and pigs cause swine flu. We're not supposed to intermingle with nature anymore. Think about where this is going. We are being, in a sense, kind of cattle herded away from the rest of nature, away from our natural environment where evolution has informed our biology and our genetics and our epigenetics. So we're being stripped from that so we can be mined like a commodity. And Alison McDowell says, sorry to get a little grim on you, one reason, potential reason for all of Amazon and SpaceX, Elon Musk's satellite constellations that are going up, thousands of satellites, is not just so we can have internet. It's so this prison planet can be governed, and that all the geolocation and the geofencing can be governed from space, from outer space. Now, I told you I would get into this. I'm going to leave you on something that actually looks pretty cool and can also be quite a detriment if this is only in the hands of the technocratic few at the top. Drones. I'm going to leave you on drones. Not just any drones, but hive mind drones. Drones that communicate with one another. They talk to each other. They think on their own, connected to the grid, connected to AI. Penn State University has been developing this, and there's quite a lot of advancements that have been using. Even in China, as I'll show you right now, drones are actually taking the place of fireworks, and it's beautiful. Check it out. This is drones, ladies and gentlemen. This is the future of drones, and it goes even deeper. Let me just read you something from Vijay Kumar, who is also the dean of Penn's Engineering School at University of Pennsylvania. The robots basically talk to each other, he said. They each know where they're going. They can use high-level algorithms to distribute themselves in complex ways to solve tasks. Some of them call them quadcopters, and they use control theory and equations to interact quickly in 3D environments as if it is one with its environment. Here's an incredible video from TEDx.
We first capture the physics with a mathematical model of how the machines behave. We then use a branch of mathematics called control theory to analyze these models and also to synthesize algorithms for controlling them. Suppose that we want this quad to not only hover, but to also balance this pole. With a little bit of practice, it's pretty straightforward for a human being to do this, although we do have the advantage of having 2 feet on the ground and the use of our very versatile hands. It naturally doesn't spill, no matter what the quad does. What I have in front of me is a commercial gesture sensor, mainly used in gaming. It can recognize what my various body parts are doing in real time. Similar to the pointer that I used earlier, we can use this as inputs to the system. We now have a natural way of interacting with the raw athleticism of these quads with my gestures.
All right, I'm going to stop there. There's so much more I want to go into, but I'm not able to get it. This is already an hour long. It's going to take a while to edit, and I really am asking for your guys' help. If you are in a position, even if it's $5, if it's more, great. Again, there will be a tiered system of benefits that you can get, perks that you can get for donating more. Please donate to PayPal, donate to Vimeo. The information is below. The reason why I want this donated is so I can also bring on staff. I need people to verify facts. I need people to help research. I need people to edit. I really need a team, but I need your help to help fund this. So please subscribe to the page, help get the subscriber base up, share these videos as widely as possible. It's very, very important to share this video. And hit that like button. It helps the algorithms, help share this video out even more. I want to remind you that there are many solutions, and I'm not going to go too deep into it now, but the very first solution is getting our heads out of our asses. We need to realize that this is something that is a moving train. There's nothing neutral about it. There's no fear-mongering when it's reality. There are many solutions, and we are extremely powerful. Why do you think I can still use this platform to talk with you? Because the agenda hasn't completely sunk its roots and its claws into us yet. Please remember that the power lies within, but we need to wake up our tribe now. The tribe needs to wake up now. We need to start understanding that there are prophecies that talk about this very time and exactly what's happening. This is our time. This is where the real resistance starts, but it happens from a peaceful non-compliance standpoint. It should not get to the point where we need to use our guns. We should never have to give up our guns, but it should not get to the point where we need to use our guns. It should not get to the point where we need to even give up any land or resources or make some kind of compromise about the freedoms we already have. In fact, we've already given up far too much. It's time to take it all back. It's time to level the playing field and make all of this technology decentralized and work for humanity and work for Mother Earth, not just for a centralized group of people. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Please stay tuned for the next Waking Infinity news. I'm going to be bringing a lot more of this information to you, and I'm going to try and get Alison McDowell on a podcast so I can bring her beautiful information and all of her years of research to you. Thank you guys. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you next time on Waking Infinity News.